Hello, folks, and welcome to another episode of Hash It Out. My name is Justin Moorhead. I'm here with Mitch Evans, and today we're going to talk to you about Romans chapter 10, verses 13 through 15. Really, this idea of missions, of going with the gospel to other people. And people who don't know the gospel, don't have that available to them, is very much what we preached on Sunday. So we're going to talk about it a little bit today. Hopefully is helpful to everyone listening. One of the things, if you're in Christian circles, in churches and stuff, that you hear talked about a lot with missions or missionaries is that this is something that you're called to. So being called to missions is an expression that would be real common. What does it mean to be called to missions?
Yeah, I think at the low level, it comes from a concept for all those who don't want to be called.
That's how you talk about those people.
Well, they're thinking like, I don't want to go to Africa and spend the rest of my life in some jungle, sure. So I must not be called. I do think there is kind of, it goes both ways.
That's funny.
Going on. Yeah, at least that's been my experience.
Could you call it like obedient and disobedient? Instead of called and not called?
Well, you and I are sitting here.
I know.
Africa,
that's
right?
Yeah. That gets real quick.
I
think called. We'll stick with called for now.
Yeah.
But you get a feeling? How do you know if you're
called?
I
mean, Acts 13, you have this early church within Christian history. In Acts 13, they're trying to figure out who from among us should go out.
Yeah.
We think that the gospel should be spread. So if you follow the logic of Acts, they were told spread the gospel. They really stayed in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Stephen, this guy, gets stoned to death. Mm-hmm. And they think, oh man, maybe we should get away from here a little bit. Acts 11 implies that stoning was something God used to cause them to spread the gospel. It's kind of a ferocious idea. So by Acts 13, it's kind of sunk in.
Sure,
that's how I would be. I'd be like, it took somebody getting stoned to death where I was like, maybe we should do this. So Acts 13, they're trying to figure out who to go.
Yeah.
And they say, who is being appointed by the Holy Spirit to go? Mm-hmm. And they land at, it's Paul and Silas. And I said Paul and Silas. I need to refresh my memory real quickly of Acts 13. Somebody online is.
They're going to get there before you.
I know. The moment I said, I was like, I think it's Paul and Barnabas. It is Paul and Barnabas. So Barnabas, and at this point, of course, Paul is going by Saul, Jewish name. But Paul and Barnabas get sent out. They lay hands on them. They pray for them. They had this period of fasting that's going on in that passage. And so nonetheless, that is the sending. So it wasn't everybody go.
Right.
Some of us should go. We do need to determine who should go.
Yes.
And so I think that determination is, that's what people usually mean by called. I don't feel called to go, or I do feel called to go. I think it's better for a church to say, we want to encourage people to go, kind of like Acts 13 model. Identify people who seem to be equipped to go. Seems way closer to the biblical model.
In some way, is it going to boil down to some sort of internal confirmation activity by the Holy Spirit in a person? So that's, if I were going to really say what I feel like call means, that's what it means. Some internal confirmation that I'm going to attribute to the work of the Holy Spirit that's just inclining me in a really strong way that I need to go do something.
Yeah, so I would say that desire is a piece of it.
Desire, okay.
Yeah. Like in 1 Peter 5, he tells, don't be a pastor if it's under compulsion.
Yeah.
So if you have no desire, somebody's going to twist in your arm, then you shouldn't go.
Yeah.
Like famously, that one of the earliest missionaries in the U.S., his wife did not want to go. He forces her to go, and it essentially drove her crazy. So back to the call. So don't force your wife if you don't want to go.
Right.
We're going to India or whatever it's called, Burma at the time, I think. Anyways, so I think we should be a little more careful with it. Maybe let me make a quick comparison. This is not the exact same, but it's close.
Sure.
Pastors, if you're going to be a pastor at a church. Volunteer pastor, you're going to be a paid occupational pastor, but you're going to be a pastor. And that people will typically say, I'm called to be a pastor. Mm-hmm. So internal desire is part of it. Those who desire to be an overseer desire an able task, right? 1 Timothy 3. But then they also have to meet godly qualifications.
Yeah.
And a church has to appoint them to the position. Mm-hmm. So it's, in essence, your church affirms you that, yep, we think you should be a pastor because you've met these qualifications and you were willing to put yourself in that position because you had a desire. So I think desire is part of it. Yeah, for sure.
So just a question that entered my mind. Does a missionary, in like international missions, I want to go be a missionary, do I need to be qualified to be an elder?
The short answer is no. They're not one and the same. Even though often what is going on in missions is you're trying to start a church.
Sure, yeah.
So somebody's going to be an elder there. Mm-hmm. So it makes a lot of sense for somebody who is qualified, is part of the missions endeavor.
But there is a category of missionary who you think would not necessarily have to meet all of the criteria for elder qualification.
Most notably, ladies. I think you could have a lady who goes and she serves. Sometimes I think we don't want to narrow it down too much. So, for instance, it could be a lady who says, I'm going to go teach at a school.
Sure.
I'm going to teach English at a school in like some portion of China. Because there's not a lot of Christian influence there. But I know Chinese, I'm bilingual, so I'm going to go teach English in this school, but I'm trying to be a Christian influence, and I'm going to participate with a local church there.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a great example of somebody who's not necessarily pastor, right? Mm-hmm. But they're called, there would be some qualifying before a church would say, yeah, we want to send you to that endeavor, for sure.
Yeah.
That would mirror some of the characteristics you see with a pastor.
That's good. That's helpful. And a good category, I think. Ladies on the mission field makes a whole lot of sense. So, and you may have heard this before. I've heard this before. Why should Christians be concerned to take the gospel internationally when you can look right around the area where you are and think, man, I see a lot of gospel need right here. So what is it? Why is that not missions and the other one is? Why is it that we're not necessarily wanting to be sent like, as a missionary right here where we are and instead we send people away?
I think it's a good, so obviously, I know you would already agree with this. It should be both and.
Yeah.
Yeah, share the gospel here and over there. Mm-hmm. Paul's unique concern in Romans is he wants to go where the gospel is not being proclaimed. So it's very helpful with Paul. Paul says, Asia has heard the gospel, so I need to go to Spain.
Okay.
Well, we know historically, not literally every person in Asia had heard the gospel. But I think what he's saying is there's a strong gospel presence here in these cities. And I know nobody's proclaiming the gospel over there.
Yeah.
So I want to get to the spot where nobody's proclaiming it. So it is a concern for those who have never heard. So I think we should do certainly both and. So for instance, he had been in the island nation of Crete. And he says, I left you, Titus, there to go around to all the churches that still needed to develop pastoral leadership. I want you to go all and help them come along in that category. So there's very much a category for that. I would say what Titus was doing, he was taken to Crete and he has left at Crete to do that type of work.
Right.
And then Paul is going on to where the gospel is not being proclaimed. So they're going to places where the need is. So it's a need-based initiative.
So, because we've even, and this is something that, a thought that's provoked in my mind in this conversation, we've talked a lot here in the past at our church about this category of unsaved Christians. So being in the southeast of the United States, Bible Belt, churches on every corner, the gospel is certainly everywhere. But one of the things that we've seen is that there's a lot of delusion. A lot of people who would call themselves Christians, we have a lot of reason to believe they're probably not actually Christians. And I've even seen that that's like led to people making comments like, they really need to be sending missionaries to us, not the other way around. But it sounds like, based on what you're saying, where is the gospel absent? It's certainly not absent here. We even found in our local, North American missions type endeavor in Vermont in the Northeast,
Yeah.
people aren't really familiar with the gospel, not like they are here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can go up there and I think what I remember is talking about Adam and Eve, and people are like, "Who are you talking about?" There's
Yeah.
really, like, you think people are biblically illiterate here. I mean, there is no knowledge of God in the gospel, even in parts of the United States, where that would be more of like unreached, or these people don't have the gospel. So even though we see that there's a lot of glaring issues here, it's not the same as not having the gospel or needing planting. We don't necessarily need planting. Does that sound like how you would assess that?
Yes. I think, maybe to clarify for our church crowd, when you mean by planting, is somebody planting the gospel seed in another person's life, not starting a new church.
That's correct.
Yeah,
That's correct. In the sermon, used
or
that
farming.
language.
We're not talking about farming.
You could farm.
Yeah.
And
Is farming needed here, though? That's the
farming
question.
at new churches.
Yes.
It's like planting and planting.
Farmers for Jesus. So I would add on, I think you're totally right, in part because a guy just happened to stop by our church wanting a whole nother ministry endeavor. But he had been serving in Mongolia, a Muslim nation. The percent of Christians in a Muslim nation was just slightly higher than the percent of Christians in Vermont. So I think you're very much on it. So we would say right now, in the continent of Africa, you have the rate of growth among Christians is very high. More people are becoming Christians there than in the U.S., the rate of growth. Whereas Europe is a very depressed state in terms of gospel presence, Christian activity, and it's been in just steady decline, or you might even say plateaued at a very low rate for a long time. So missions right now, you would say, is not in a small rural village in Africa. It's in London.
That seems so backwards in some ways.
Yeah.
You think, I don't know what it would be, but you think about going on missions trips or mission work, and you do tend to think about where's the impoverished place.
Yes.
Where's the the particularly rural place, or the less civilized place in some ways. But I think, what you're saying is very true, to see that there are very civilized, in some sense, parts of Western civilization where there is no gospel presence. That's the place that needs the missionaries.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think some of the European nations, the censorship that's going on is making it more challenging, whereas you could go to South America, Central America, and there's virtually no censorship. I mean, you're free to go about the country and preach the gospel. And so, I think that is a unique challenge we have to be aware of.
Sure.
And going. But yes, I would encourage folks to think more accurately about it, not thinking digging wells.
Right.
And where is the most physical need? Where's the most gospel need?
And with that, when churches are thinking about that, churches need to be thinking about sending people, which is very much a lot of what was preached about on Sunday, wanting people to feel rightly motivated and called, and then supported and sent by a local church to do this type of work. What kind of person are we looking for? Like, who is it that churches should anticipate being the ones to do this kind of thing?
Yes, that's where I think it gets back to your first earlier thought anyways, of what calling looks like. Because it is something I've experienced over and over and over again. Is either I'm preaching or somebody else is preaching. They talk about the severe need of the gospel in places, and it's moving to somebody who's a Christian. And it can be really moving for somebody who might be ill-equipped to do that. They're very new in the faith, and if they go to another culture and they are trying to wrestle with what does this work look like, that can be so very challenging to their own sensibilities. And so I think what is the better way to see it is not just who feels moved in this moment, is to say we want, kind of like they were doing in Acts 13, we want to find people filled with the Holy Spirit as best as we can discern.
Sure.
And encourage them to go. So I think that would look like some of the people in church that we love being around.
Yeah.
And saying, we want you to go. In part because we the things we love about you so much and that otherwise would make us want to cling to you and try to keep you here.
Sure.
Are the very attributes that demonstrate the Holy Spirit, which means it would be very fitting for you to go. So I think that's a common maybe misconception that some of our best folks are the ones that we would part ways with.
Yeah. That's good. That's helpful. Last thing. We'll just get to know you a little bit better, Mitch.
Yes, all right.
So you're a pastor. You love the Bible. You love to share the gospel. Have you thought about or ever worked through a call to missions in your life? Why are you sitting here and not there?
So I'm glad you brought this up. I'm going to Mongolia. Sorry, baby. I was going to tell you first. I think it is. So just real fast. Leanne, we are not going to Mongolia.
It's all about Genghis Khan.
Yeah. I think an honest believer would wrestle with it. And probably not just one time in their life. At least that's been my experience. Not just the one time, well, I settled that matter a long time ago.
Yeah.
God's not calling me. So where I have landed personally is I think I would be in the wrong position to say never. However, I also currently would say the way God has oriented my life is I can do a lot to encourage the going and support the going.
Yeah.
So I could use the platform, so to speak, that God has given me to say people should go, and that would be a better stewardship of my personal resources than currently going, not taking that off the table.
Yeah.
So the pastor I grew up under in Tennessee, godly guy, the church under him became a mega church, retires and goes as a missionary to Japan.
Oh, wow.
So I think you say that's not off the table.
Sure, yeah.
So I think he was doing a lot I personally know he was doing a lot for supporting, literally during his time in ministry, hundreds of missionaries, hundreds of people around the globe. The church, he was leading the church to do it.
Yeah.
But then he ultimately, last years of his life, says, I'm going to go too.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I think that's where it would land with me currently. Currently, I think I could be better serving God by encouraging folks to go and supporting in every way possible at the moment.
Yes, that's good. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Well, we hope this has been good for you. Hope it's been edifying. Hope you think more clearly, more faithfully about missions and who should go and considering your own call, if we want to use that word, on your life to go. But yeah, we'll plan to be back here next week, so tune in next time for another episode of Hash It Out.